Metamaterials, MMAT. This you can consider as a warning to my bulls. Okay, so let's go ahead and find out exactly what I mean within this video. What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by once again. This is ARCa coming at you with an MMAT technicals, statistical, and raw price action thread of analysis. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community in Discord called ARCa. With that said, let's go ahead and dive right into the charts. So we are looking at MMAT on the 8-hour chart right over here, and this is the descending channel in which we've been following for quite some time now. Now, we did actually fulfill the golden rule of 3, which is actually something I talk about often. So that consists of 3 tests of the resistance from the formation before a true breakout attempt on test number 4. There are some things that actually have my attention right now. So usually upon the breakout of 4, usually, okay, it doesn't have to happen every time, we actually do come back to test our newly converted resistance into support before a continuation onto the upside. And when we were making this descent here, I actually called this a bear trap, actually, in which it actually did happen, and we continued on to the upside. And sometimes this could, more or less be the validator of a support before continuing. But price action from today and some statistical metrics, and actually everything, the technicals too, are suggesting a pretty large downside. Now, I can't actually verify this to tell you that this is the absolute truth of what's going to be happening, but there is a strong likelihood starting from this very fact here. Okay, so let's first of all put a box here from this area to this candle right up here, and now you can see that we do have a gap that is, the range from the gap is between 177 to the lowest area of 168. Okay, so this is a large gap, and price action is suggesting a continuation to this. Okay, we have used it already as a form of support, but now we're coming right back to it. Okay, so I honestly, discretionarily speaking, or in a discretionary manner, and also judging by just candle analysis and raw price action here, it looks like it actually does want to, the sentiment actually does look like it wants to cover this gap. And actually, if we look at the bottom of this gap, it is very much in confluence with the 1.618 golden mean, which is at about $1.69. So this, if we're on our way down and the 1.618 is in that direction, chances are is that the sentiment will take it there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to the next chart to see what we have. So yeah, let's go ahead and actually dive right into the statistics of this. So new viewers, you're looking at volatility here, represented by an indicator called BBWP. Volatility is direction neutral. So in order for us to gain a bias for any type of direction, we pair it, in my case, I pair it with stochastic momentum, very similar to an RSI, but it is a momentum-based indicator, okay? So in backtesting this indicator throughout many tickers, I've actually gotten an average of about 75% to 90% in guessing the asset's direction accurately. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it's very good to consider. Okay, so now the criteria for this backtest I performed with these metrics, actually. So anytime that you see, or that I saw, the volatility reach expansive critical levels, which I consider to be anything beyond this trend line here within the 90 percentile, anytime that we have reached that and started a contraction phase to the downside, I have taken iteration from a note of every iteration where we've made a downside move from this critical expansive high and the duration of that iteration. And I also noted the amount of times that the iteration has gotten the downside correctly versus incorrectly. Okay, so those the criteria of those 3 components actually came up with this backtest. So now the backtest is performed throughout the entire trading history of the MMAT asset. Okay, so these are all done by hand, if you can see here. I do this. This is how I trade. Okay, I do this because I study the momentum, I study the behavior of the asset itself so I can understand where it can go, and then we apply some mathematics to it, and it gives us some statistical variables for us to be able to take into consideration. Know that they are statistics, they are not certainties, okay? So now with that said, we are looking at a total of 23 total iterations, a total of 23 iterations, of which 12 were guessed correctly to the downside. Okay, so that gives us an average downside accuracy of 47.82% with an average downside pressure of about minus 39.28% over the span of just under 15 and a half days. This is proof of work. Okay, so now applying the statistical metric, we would actually need for both the volatility component represented by this, where my cursor is, and the moving average of the BBWP, both pivoted to the downside and below the 90 percentile zone, as well as the stochastics momentum suggesting a downside with both the signal line and the moving average. Okay, so now we are officially in play to the downside in a statistical metric. Okay, so now I can actually apply the downside move, and I actually did apply that move in the Discord earlier this morning to somebody that asked, one of the Discord members asked about the MMAT direction, and I caught this. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have caught it. So thank you so much if you're listening to this video, my brother. So I actually was able to tell him that we're going to start a downside move from about 5% up, of which 5% were lost today. Okay, so we did catch this the moment that it happened. So the signal fired off. Let me just get rid of this. The signal fired off, and I was able to tell him that we are looking at a potential downside to test the $1.17 area upon completion of a minus 39.28% decline from the current price action. So if we are looking at that $1.17 zone, you can actually see that $1.17 is very much close to our, I'm going to draw a trend line right here so you can see your 117, okay? So this is 117. We're going to draw a horizontal line, which is, I'm going to get rid of this yellow one here. That's from another analysis. We can see the potential of us retracing to this trend line here, which has to do with, or some confluence with our 100-day simple moving average. This was our projected downside from when we were on our ascent. So if we're this close to the newly converted resistance into support from this descending channel, I think statistics are suggesting that we actually come back and test the newly converted resistance before a continuation. Okay, so there is a strong likelihood of that. So now let's gain, now that the statistics are out of the way, let's go ahead and grab a bias for direction. Okay, so another thing to notice here is on the 12-hour chart. This is the 12-hour RSI. Okay, we did notice that we actually were printing 3 drives of phantom hidden bearish divergence. And this is, I think, particular to the daily chart. So since it's a daily, we actually did catch this in the video that we made just a few days ago, or a couple days ago. We did catch this as a potential downside, in which it did confirm it, and now we are in play for that downside. Know that I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take whatever I show within these videos as like your fact, okay? Make sure to take it as a form of entertainment, not as anything else, okay? I need you to do your own DD, because I can't actually suggest for you to buy or sell any assets, okay, you guys? I very much do mean well for the community. I'm never going to pump anything. I'm going to give you the flat truth. Whatever the stats say, whatever the mathematics are suggesting, I'm going to tell you. I do not follow company-specific fundamentals. I only follow macroeconomic catalysts, so when it's company particular, I have found that as a short-term systematic based trader, price action has nothing to do with my time frame. Okay, so for longer term investments, sure, it does have to do with it, but in my case, I do not go longer than the swing trades in just a few days trade. Okay, so that's I'm in and out, and I'm done. So what I'm noticing here is several methods and strategies and indications and math suggesting downside. Okay, so now let's look at a multi-pane so that we can be able to gain that bias for the immediate short term as well. So we're going to start with a 30-minute time frame. For the new viewers, I actually created a diagram here for you to be able to follow along with my RSI properties. Okay, so I've actually so for these 4 zones, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 zones, you're looking at them right here blown up so that you can be able to tag along as I talk so that you don't get lost in translation. Okay, so let's look at now that 30-minute time frame and see what we have. So the 30-minute time frame is suggesting a continuation to the upside. However, we are at the border of the bear weakness percentile versus the bear strength percentile. And we're also at this moving average represented by the pink line. This moving average could be used as a form of resistance like it has here. Okay, so when we're in these shallow areas, we more than likely will be gravitated back down, but the other time frames will tell us as such. So the bi-hourly RSI is suggesting a continuation to the upside. It is not so aggressive though, which is actually an indication that we may actually be able to use this moving average again as a form of resistance before a continuation onto the downside. We are sitting within the bear weakness percentile here, so some downside may be expected. So this is the 6-hour RSI, again with a very, very limited upside pivot here, and also within the shallow areas of the bull weakness percentile, which means that we can be gravitated into bear weakness. Okay, now the ones to start taking real credit for are, let's see, this is the daily time frame. It is suggesting a continuation onto the downside. Okay, so we are also getting a hint from the moving average that is suggesting some downside as well. Now, we are in the deep areas of the bull weakness percentile, which means that we can be gravitated right up into the bull strength percentile. But like I've said, we can actually use the resistance from the moving average as kind of like a guide to the way down. So we do have to watch out with those things. Okay, you guys? So if I'm looking at the price action right now, there is the potential to where we can face a short-term upside to validate in the 8-hour chart our 10-day simple moving average as a valid form of resistance before continuing to the downside. Another thing that could indicate a very, very short-term upside is the fact that this candle printed in a similar form as a hammer candle. When we get a print of a hammer at the bottom of a downtrend, that usually indicates a potential upside move. In this case, since the RSI is suggesting downside, the statistics are suggesting downside, and the immediate short-term RSI is suggesting upside, I can actually see an upside immediate, just like I said, an immediate short-term upside to test the SMA 10 before us validating it as a form of resistance, and then and then we can use it as a guide to the way down. Excuse me, thus realizing the statistical 39 spot 28%. So the thing to keep in mind here is that it is an average of just under 15 and a half days, and we have literally completed one. Okay, so this is going to take some time, if not impulsively sold off. So what I am thinking is that in the Discord community, I may actually put a play so that we can bet against the price action to the upside using long puts. Okay, so I think I'm going to put that down tonight. So please make sure to join the ARCa trading community. Visit me on Twitter. I'll make sure to leave the links in the description below for you to consider joining. Okay, so now I think that's all I have to say for tonight. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it here, you guys. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me. But I'll catch you at the bell mañana. Adios.